What up, everybody, and welcome to the Broken Bat Podcast, episode number 14. We're here rolling. We're just pumping them out. Call us the factory. No, just kidding. Call us the Broken Bat Podcast. My name's J-Rob.
America's Podcast.
America's Podcast. We talk about all things baseball. If you love baseball, you're going to love us because we talk about it all. I'm joined by Casey and Peter. Peter's going to let you know where you can find us because we already know you love us, so you're going to show us some love on the socials. Peter.
Absolutely. So we are on Instagram, at Twitter, at the Broken Bat Pod with no spaces. We also do have an email address, thebrokenbatpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to have you follow, interact, give us some feedback, let us know what you're feeling, what you're thinking, favorite teams, anything like that, what you agree, disagree with. If you do find us on Spotify, we put polls down there so you can participate. Again, kind of let us know how you're feeling about what we're talking about. And make sure to go ahead and give us a follow on whatever platform you listen to us on. It does help us out. It's really cool, so we do greatly appreciate that. Casey, let them know what we're talking about in episode 14.
The American League West Division.
So not the best division in baseball.
The best is home to one and only the America's team, the Seattle Mariners.
LOL. Casey, I'm going to be honest with you. Not the best division. I think as where it stands right now, AL East is the best division just because those records speak for it. But AL West,
We have 4 playoff teams currently. But
yeah, if playoffs ended today, or if the season ended today, they would have 4 teams. But AL West
not a
is
single one below 500. But
yeah, AL West is kind of right there. And when I say right there, you also still have the Oakland Athletics in your in that division, who are 5-20 and are on pace for what do we say, like 32 games or something like that. So terrible, but outside of that, there's like it's a really good division and a lot of intriguing parts on kind of what's going to happen. Astros didn't start well, playing a lot better, 7-3 in their last 10. Rangers started really well, then kind of sucked, have played better, 6-4 in their last their last 10. Angels, are they going to be buyers at the deadline, or are they going to be sellers at the deadline? Mariners, probably going to be sellers at the deadline. Had a good rebuild year a couple years ago, need another one. So
Okay, all right.
Who would you say? Who?
I said you're bringing the heat.
Oh yeah, I'm bringing the heat. Are you kidding me? I'm fired up for this episode. So I got a lot of hot takes, or maybe some. Well, let's go with room temperature to hot takes. A lot of in between.
We'll see. Yeah.
No
After
cold
the
takes
take,
though.
we got it.
Yeah, no cold takes though. All about the hot takes, and it may seem room temp, but they're going to get hot. They warm up. They grow on you. But
All right, give it to me.
well, I don't have any now. They got to come as they go. Like
I got a hot take.
hot take. Let's hear it.
The Mariners are finishing in first place.
Wow.
Pretty hot take. What makes you say that besides being a homer? Do you have anything to back that up?
Yeah,
You just
seriously.
lost Robbie Ray for the year.
Four.
Robbie Ray's out for the year.
Robbie
So
Ray's
you
out
lost
for the year.
What makes you?
So
Wait,
Chris
Casey,
Watson take it.
what was your take?
Mariners finished in first place in the AL West.
Are you going to back that up with anything, or it's just a take?
No, I got plenty of facts and knowledge. Okay. You ever heard
Let's hear it.
of
Facts.
You ever
and
heard
knowledge.
You ever heard of a player called Julio Rodriguez?
All right, if he's literally just gonna talk up every Mariners player, have you guys ever seen that video? It's like, oh, this guy, he's a running back, dog. Oh yeah, this guy, he's a offensive lineman, dog, and literally just talks about dog for everyone. That's what you sound like when you talk about the freaking Mariners.
Everyone in the lineup except Teoscar.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
so-
Jared Kelenic is a hotter hitter than any Cardinal right now.
Paul Goldschmidt.
Oh, okay. You want to play silly games? Okay.
Yeah, you go.
Are we talking about the NL? Are we talking about the NL Central or the AL West? I don't know why we brought up the Cardinals.
He said hottest player, so hotter
We're
than
just gonna-
Jared Kelenic.
I
Whatever.
know
So
that
Casey,
we brought it up.
you look at that. I'm going to talk about the AL West real quick with Peter because we can actually talk with level heads.
I would like to talk about the AL West, the teams that are leading the division, have a best chance of being around at the end of the year.
Yes.
So Texas and Houston. I kind of think the Rangers may have missed an opportunity over the last week or so because the Astros, like we talked about, didn't start the season great. and then they were going to face the Braves and the Rays on the road and dominated, whereas Texas was playing Cincinnati and just got swept by Cincinnati. So, that's where you could have, I think the Rangers could be like 17, 18 wins right now
Put some
and
distance.
have, a 3 to 4 game division lead. Instead, currently they're tied both 14 and 11. So I think the Astros, with their slow start, with missing Altuve, I think personally the Rangers needed to build the lead in the division if they hope. I mean, or you could do the Mariners strategy and currently trail the division.
Yeah, seriously.
According to some of our hosts, be on pace to win the division. But I think it's interesting that I think the Rangers, and a long season, a lot of year left. Don't get me wrong, but I do think it's interesting that Astros are kind of already starting to right themselves. Going to get Altuve back at some point, so I think it's a missed opportunity. But not only the Rangers specifically with their weekend, but all of the division, that they're not building a lead on the Astros right now.
Yeah.
I think, as a fan of everyone in baseball except for two teams, one of those being the trash cans, is worrying. So
Yeah.
don't like that.
Well, and I think I agree with that. And I want more than anything else, I want to have a hot take for this division, like in regards to standings at the end of the year. But as right now, I don't. And that's the sad thing, because one stat that I'm going to point out, and Casey, this is specifically for you, and Peter, not specifically for you, but also to get your insight. The Seattle, for Casey's hot take, finishing first in the division, why that's not going to happen. The Mariners playing teams that are 500 or better are 2-7 on the year. Terrible. Also, the Los Angeles Angels are 3-7 with teams that are 500 or better. So, two of those teams that look promising, granted 25, 26 games into the season, when they play good teams, they are not good. So, even though they're both right around 500 right now, when they're playing the better teams, they're not able to hang with those teams. And sure, they could be buyers at the deadline that will make them better, but that's really their only chance to make that push. But at that point, I think Houston has too much of a lead. The Rangers, however, they're 4-5 with teams that are above 500, so obviously a lot better, or better than the Angels and the Mariners. But Houston is 11-7 against teams that are 500 or better.
Played 8 more games, and
they played so many more games. Yeah,
that's crazy. And they have a winning record. Don't even know what's a winning record.
Yeah, by 4 games. So they're playing well, and I mean that's why there can't be at least in my opinion, why there can't be a hot take in regards to standings in the AL West for the end of the year right now, because Houston, even though they're not even in first right now, they're still looking like the best team.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I think there was missed opportunity for someone else to come after the division.
Yeah,
and I could see 2 teams making the playoffs out of the AL West.
Yes, agreed.
But I personally think either the Angels or the Mariners, one of them sells at the deadline. I don't see both of them being buyers and going. So
yes,
and I don't know which one. I mean, I kind of want to say the Mariners just to get Casey a little fired up, but I don't see. I see one of them being sellers at the deadline. I don't see all 4 teams trying to go for it the entire year. I
have a question or a comment, and then a question for you, Pete. Comment is can't remember. No, I don't know. So here's my question for you. You can't see both being buyers. I agree with that. Can you see both of them being sellers, though? The Angels and the Mariners?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think I'd be shocked if they're both sellers, just because I think like we've talked about as well, with the balanced schedule, I think there's going to be more teams that can see themselves going for it.
Ooh.
So if they're both sellers, and with the extra wild card, I think if they didn't have that extra wild card right now,
if it's only 2 still.
I think, like we talked about, the Astros already tied in the division with playing that many more 500 without Altuve, with all their things, and they're already still tied. So I think the Astros are going to unfortunately run away with the division by even the deadline. So other team back. So I think just because of the wild card, I would be shocked.
If they're both. My thing. So this is actually thinking about this more, and this was my comment. I was gonna say I hope, like, if it was only gonna be one team, like one team's buyer, one team's sellers between Angels and Mariners, I was gonna say I hope the Angels would be buyer and Mariners sellers. Honestly, nothing against Casey, but strictly because I want to see Shohei and Trout make the playoffs. Like, that's why I would want the Angels to be buyers, to try to get them into the playoffs, and so we can finally see them in the playoffs.
Seriously. Okay.
And I mean, we could, like, we love Shohei. I think all of us agree we love Shohei and would love for him to be traded or sign with each of our teams in the offseason. And all of our teams, I think, have at least a decent chance. All of our teams have been talked about him potentially going there, some more likely than others. But what I struggle with, I almost I feel like the Angels not have to trade Shohei in the deadline, but if you don't think you're going to keep him in the offseason, how do you not sell him at the deadline? Because one thing as well,
back,
then you can, even if it's like,
that's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, even if it's not a lot in
I
return,
can talk about,
go for it.
no, yeah, you can finish.
Well, I just say even if it's not a lot in return, you're at least getting something. If he walks in the offseason, I honestly think the best time to trade him would have been last trade deadline, because then you could have got so much more, because you would have had a full year and 1.5 seasons of Shohei, and so you could have got a lot in return instead of just like a half season, because a lot of teams won't pay as much for just half a season, because there's no guarantee for anything more than a couple months.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that's a big part of why Soto got traded last year, because then you get at least 2 playoff runs with the players, so you can get more for him. But it's like you talked about, because it's not only do I want to see Ohtani go somewhere and be successful, which we've talked about, we probably will see next year him go to a team that's more likely to make the playoffs. And I know we show a lot of love to Shohei Ohtani because he's dope, but Mike Trout is also one of the greatest baseball players of all time.
Yeah.
And so for him to just be already in a not successful situation, lose Ohtani, and just be stuck on the Angels for the rest of his career doing nothing, I don't want to see that either. And I mean, it's possible Trout could get moved at that point as well, but it's it would be cool to see them have at least one run together.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
But I mean, it was also cool seeing the Mariners back in the playoffs last year. So it's don't get me wrong, I wish the Astros sucked ass.
Yeah. I wish it was the Angels and Mariners.
I wish the Astros were going to be the sellers of the division, but at the deadline, sorry, but definitely isn't trending that way. So
no. And I think
I just can't see all 4 teams can, obviously the Oakland Athletics are also in the division. Absolute garbage. So I don't even think they have pieces to sell. Yeah. So they can't really be sellers.
They sold them all last year.
Yeah.
So, but I think also the Angels, another thing that almost I've heard a lot of people speculate about is with them, if they were, indicates that the Angels will trade Ohtani at the deadline, because there's a ton of Shohei Ohtani promotions the first half of the year, but there's literally no promotions for Shohei Ohtani after July 31st, which is the trade deadline
and stuff.
I think there's a number of different things. I think there's 3 or 4 different promotions for Shohei, but all before the trade deadline, none for after. So literally, they're trying to fill the stadium as much as possible, get people there, especially for those promotions for Shohei. But then it's almost and not that that's obviously the tell sign of that they're going to trade him.
Sure they can add promotions later in the second half.
Yeah. So, but I just don't know.
They're sure they got him.
Yeah, but there's that, and then also just the fact of if they don't trade him, and if they're not planning on keeping him or don't think they can get him, because if they let him they're going to let them get there because they're not going to sign him in the middle of the year. There's going to be so much competition out there. I think the Angels have the best chance to sign him just because he's familiar, all those different things, not having to move, different things like that. But there's going to be so many other teams offering so much money, so many different things. So I don't know. There's a lot of things that make me believe they will trade him at the deadline. But if they don't trade Ohtani at the deadline, I don't think the Angels are sellers at the deadline. Is my take.
Casey, since this is your division, what are your thoughts on what we've had to say, or anything else?
He's
just
going to
wanna
go
say
back to
I just
the
want to say
Paul
one
Goldschmidt.
thing before J Rob.
You could, if you could see the look on his face, but forget about it. That's the only thing you've been thinking about the whole time we've been talking. Don't lie to him.
I have two comparisons actually. I have both Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt
Oh my
comparative to
God! Why
Jared
are we
Kelenic.
back on this? We don't need to talk about.
To thus this far through April 26th, the Kelenic average is 325. Goldschmidt's is 315, and Nolan Arenado's is 260. Let's move to the next category, home runs. Kelenic has 7, Goldschmidt has 4, Nolan Arenado has 2. Let's go to the RBI category. It's a little more tight. Kelenic has 14, Goldschmidt has 13, and Nolan Arenado has 14. So good job. Stolen bases, Kelenic has 3. Surprisingly, Goldschmidt has 2. Nolan Arenado only has 1. OPS, Jared Kelenic has a 1.064. Goldschmidt has a .950, and Nolan Arenado has a .662. That's all I'm going to say about that category. Moving on to the next topic of discussion. I don't know. It's hard for me to see the Mariners being sellers because they've gone through and put pieces in play that need to be. Obviously, Robbie Ray going down is a big piece that they've spent a lot of money on that no longer is in service for this year. I think they will move some pieces because we do have a lot of depth that I think we'll try to replace Robbie Ray with and move Flexen back to the bullpen. So I think we'll be buyers at the deadline, but I also could see I don't know. I see it playing out in two different ways. So for like the Angels standpoint, I could see the Angels be like, "Hey, we're close. We're bringing these not prospects, but like these players to help get us to that playoff push, to help keep Shohei in Anaheim for the next season." Where if they get close or they're out by like a game or so, they're like, "Hey, we have the right pieces. We're gonna want to reassign you a full season with these guys. We should get past the wild card or XYZ." I don't know if the Rangers are legit because they spent so much money and they have Simeon, Corey Seager, DeGrom. They rebolstered their pitching. Like Adolis Garcia is tearing it up right now. Like they have good players, but I mean, taking my Mariner hat off, it's still the Astros division to lose. Like they're turning it up now, and they're only going to get better when Altuve gets back. I mean, so I think this division like it's hard to gauge. Like you guys are saying, like any certain outcome, but I don't think it's going to be. There's not going to be many people tanking besides maybe the Athletics. Like the A's could, for whatever they have left, could potentially be sellers, but I don't know what they have that people would want. You know.
So you think all 4 teams in the division are going to go for it, basically?
I think so. I mean, that's the same with the AL East. Like, if you're the Yankees, Red Sox, even the Reds, like every team in the AL East has a shot at it. I mean, maybe more of a wild card unless the Rays cool off. But like as of now, like the Rays were running with the division, and you have 4 teams that all could and have a good week and make a push for it, right? Like they're all within like a 4-game series. So to me, I think you have to think of it long term as well. If you're the Mariners and Angels, even if you don't make the postseason this season, look at it like you have injuries. You have people not starting off hot. You have people like I know Hoppy was tearing it up for the Angels and he got injured. Robbie Ray only pitched 5 innings this season and got hurt. Like there's so many unpredictable things and like weird starts. Like you have like Julio isn't starting off the greatest either. Julio's only batting 233. I mean, his production's not terrible, but you have like Colton Wong who's batting under 100. Cal Raleigh isn't hitting as well as he should be. JP Crawford's starting to turn it up, but hitting it not as good. Like same with Rendon. Like what's Rendon doing? Like Gio Urshela. We haven't had a full season of Gio Urshela, so I think it's hard to gauge where you're at right now with the first little bit. Again, I don't know like the future plans for neither organization. I mean, I kind of can figure out the Mariners a little bit more because I follow them more in depth than I do the Angels. And I don't think we'll be sellers at all. If we are, it's just to get pitching back to help replace Robbie Ray. But I think we'll be selling more of like our minor league prospects. So we still have Evan White, who has won a Gold Glove at the major league level. And he's a solid first baseman. We have Ty France there.
Yeah, I definitely want to see the. Sorry, I want to see the Mariners being like major sellers. Like obviously they're not going to trade Julio or Kelenic or anything like that. But if they become sellers, I think it's because they're like, well, this might not be our year, but we have all these people on contracts because Julio signed a long contract. Kelenick's obviously under contract for quite a while. So it could be more of like okay, we're going to chill a little bit this year, not sell any major pieces. Like I don't see them trading Castillo, any of the Robbie Ray, anything like that. But it's kind of like to be more ready for next year.
Well, I mean, it's
on
the same
how.
thing with like Kyle Lewis. Kyle Lewis won Rookie of the Year with the Mariners, I think, in the COVID season. Played a little bit after, but then was basically living in AAA because he couldn't stay healthy. He would come up for a few games, get hurt, or get sent down because he wasn't performing well. And now he's doing decent with the Diamondbacks, but I mean that could be a thing as well. Like Evan White, the same thing. Like he's a decent bat. He doesn't have a shot right now because Ty France is an all-star and he's playing pretty well. Like there's no need to have Evan White in our system. We can get prospects or pitching back, I think. So, I mean, I think it'd be interesting to see. I don't think, like you're saying, it won't be like, if we are sellers, it won't be of our big names. It'll be like our utility guys, or like I could see us moving like AJ Pollock, or I mean, I think we DFA'd Tommy Listel, if I'm being honest. I'm not entirely sure. I thought we did. I thought I saw that somewhere. Diego Castillo is another guy we sent out to AAA because he's been struggling. So I think there's guys that like are on that bubble, but I think most of our core, for what people know, the Mariners buy, like their day-to-day, day in, day out players, they won't move them, but it's more of just depth or like guys in the bubble.
Yeah, I think
I could see.
I think that's regardless of if it's the Angels or Mariners, like if one or both or neither, well, if one or both of those teams are sellers, I think that's how it is. Like I don't think either team would move, well, even Mariners more than the Angels, because I mean you potentially could trade Mike Trout or Shohei.
Angels, I 100% see if they're sellers. I see them selling everything.
Yeah,
I think it's opposite. I think Mariners, if they're the sellers of the deadline, it's just fringe pieces.
Yeah,
Angels, I think if they're sellers, you're selling Shohei, maybe Rendon if anybody wants him.
Yeah,
I don't think Trout, just because that's incredibly shocking. And I haven't heard any talk about that. But
well, if you're the Angels, you got to keep.
So you might as well, but.
You got to keep one or the other if you're the Angels. Like you can't ship out Trout and Ohtani because you're going to lose your entire fan base.
Look at the Oakland A's.
Exactly. Look how many people they put in their seats.
Well, yeah, but there's like different reasons behind that though. Because that's the whole thing. Like Oakland's literally, fans are still going to the game. Granted, they're not selling out games, but they've literally won 5 games out of 25.
They're barely selling any tickets. Like. I don't know.
That's because the owner's trying to make it hard for people to go. Not single game tickets, but they doubled like their season ticket prices, legit doubled like over the last like 5 or 10 years or something like that. I don't even know if it's been that long. Like the owner's literally trying to do everything he can to get Oakland out of Oakland. And I think that's the difference. Like LA is established. I mean, because that's the other thing.
They were on the market for a minute. They were trying to sell the Angels for like 6 months there, and there's a lot of talk of them moving to a different city and whatnot. But I don't know. I think the Angels are a little bit better of an organization than the A's are, just because like they aren't afraid to spend money, as we've seen. Where the A's, I think I saw on Twitter the other day, there was like 3 teams who who hasn't signed a player over $100 million on a contract, and the A's were one of those players or one of those teams.
Well, the last big contract the A's had was like 6 years. Like I can't remember what it was, but not like necessarily a ton of money. It was over 100 million, but it was in like 2003 or something like that. Like legit 20 years ago.
Barry Zito or something.
Yeah,
Barry Zito, Mark Mulder. That's crazy.
Yeah. So it was like forever ago.
Maybe like Eric Chavez.
Yeah, it actually might have been Chavez. Yeah. So, but the thing with the Angels, when was the last time the Angels were good? Like they've made the playoff once since Mike Trout's been there, and he's been there a decade.
Yeah, what was that, 2013 something? Yeah, I think it wasn't it?
But it's also, I think you'd look at it in the sense of too, is like you'd look at it as how much longer do the Astros have, right? Because right now the team to beat is the Astros in that division. Yeah. So if you think the window of opportunity for them is closing, which I personally think it is, I don't think they're as dominant. I think they're getting hot right now, but
I think they have 2 to 4 more years. Not that they're the best team, but maybe the best team in that division.
I would say 2 before like they drastically fall off. I think once Altuve, because you've already lost Springer and Correa, and they're having no K career. I mean, better than most, but they're still chugging along there. But it's like once you lose Altuve and Bregman, like what else do you have there? You've already lost Verlander. Like you don't have many star players there besides maybe Jeremy Pena at that point.
Well, yeah, their
But I
pitching
don't-
is
I was
what's
gonna say, they they
helping
have Alvarez, who's young. They have Kyle Tucker, who's pretty young. Pena came up and produced. So,
But
as
they
much
could
as I
turn.
hate to say it,
yeah.
But they could turn into like an Angel situation because you have the two best players in the world, and you have been.
Well, I don't
subpar
think they will
hanging
because
around.
they have one of the best farm systems. They have a good farm system, and they're like a lot of their players are from their farm system, like or they've traded them into their farm system and kind of like grew them
they
from there.
haven't sold.
They haven't made
had to
any
be
big
bringing
trades to
in a
get
bunch
like
of pieces
big people.
to-
Yeah. So that's why I feel like the Astros are going to be good, honestly, for a while. Like, I think the Angels, what they could do, because honestly, last episode when we were talking about the Cardinals, I was like crazy situation. Obviously, probably never going to happen, but like, well, and I'll take the Angels for instance, just because we're talking about the AL West. But if you trade Shohei Ohtani at the trade deadline this year, even if it's for half a season, you can get, even if they're like, we don't want any current major league players, we want all prospects, but all like soon to be ready major league prospects, so that in 2 to 3 years when the Astros aren't as good, these guys are like coming up and like, or have a year or two in the majors, so they have some experience. But you could get at least one or two, or if not more, of like top prospects from a team for Shohei, even with just half a season. And then if you do Mike Trout, who's locked up with the no trade clause, like for how many more years? He signed like a 10-year deal a few years ago, and so he's like locked up long term still. And because of that,
probably get more pieces for him.
yeah, you can get more pieces from him. And then you have like some other smaller pieces, like you have Ward, you have O'Happy, who I wouldn't trade, but he's like a young piece that he's probably out. O'Happy, whatever, most of the year, if not the full year. Like, you build your team. Like, if I was the Angels, this is what I would do. I would legit build my team to be great with all these young prospects for like 2 to 3 years down the road. And if you're an Angels fan, if I was an Angels fan, I'd be okay with that. Sure, we're getting rid of the two greatest players, but we've had the two greatest players for 5 years now, and what has that gotten us? 0 playoff appearances. So if I'm giving,
I mean, I would hate to trade Trout, but also it's like you're thinking, if you trade Ohtani for prospects, they're not going to be ready for 2 to 3 years, and by that time, Trout would be 34, 35,
yeah,
and he's already injury prone. So
yeah,
it's kind of like, I mean, it'd be awesome to have like. I love when players are with teams for their whole careers.
Yes.
And stuff like that. So I don't want them to trade Mike Trout.
Well, and the hard thing as well is I'm pretty sure he has that no trade clause.
I don't see the point of, But I mean, I know he's from Philly. He likes them. He talked about going there.
Yeah.
I'm sure he could be talking into some other teams and situations because it's like, if you trade Ohtani, you're not competing. And I would assume he's a competitive guy and wants to win World Series. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I think it's even more enticing to Angels fans if you're a true fan and understand the game and things. If you're going to get rid of Mike Trout at any point, like pretty much right now is the time to get rid of Mike Trout. Like, because he's locked up, because he has that no trade clause, and like you'll have him for a while. If he goes somewhere, he's going to go to a place he wants to go because of that no trade clause. Like, he has to agree to it, and you're going to get a lot in return. So I think that's honestly the Angels' best move if you're not going to lock up Shohei. And even if you are, like, you can get so many pieces back, build for, like, obviously you want to win now, but whatever you're doing right now is not working, clearly. And they have so much money locked up, like, how much more money are they going to be able to spend? I don't know. I don't have the owner's checkbook or know what he's obviously wants to win, I'm sure, but like what he's willing to pay.
Casey, hypothetical for you. Last episode we talked about, would you trade Julio and Castillo for Shohei? You turned it down. New hypothetical. Would you trade Julio and Castillo for Shohei and Mike Trout?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, Shohei,
you're dumb if you're not. Like at that point, you're just stupid if you turn that down. I love Julio.
They're both more injury prone, Castillo and Julio. I mean, Julio's obviously young, but haven't had injury issues. Haven't had. So you're taking the like 2 to 3 year title shot over the
I've never
long
even been
term.
to the World Series, so like,
Yeah.
yeah, if I have any chance to make it to the World Series, like I'm taking that. Whether if, like it's kind of going all in, right? Like the Cubs kind of went all in on like Aroldis Chapman in 2016 when they won to kind of get them past that hump, right? And he still almost
Yeah.
blew it, but like that made that contract, like that rent a player in a sense, worth it to the Cubs because they got a World Series out of it, right? So like if you do that, you're going all in on winning a World Series.
Because I think with that as well, one, never in a million years do I think that would actually be a trade because the Angels
No,
would not get
the
enough
Angels would
back.
not do that. I mean,
Yeah.
you could give maybe your whole farm system
Yeah.
and like
Well, if that's
Kellenic as well.
well, if you could somehow only give up Julio and Castillo for those two, and then like granted, like you gave away a lot more, but it
And
was all
all
like
of your minor
minors or
leaguers.
something. Yeah. Like
Yeah, your whole AA and AAA team.
I think you would have a chance at the World Series. I still don't even know if you're favorites at that point because I think your biggest issue still is your pitching. And you're getting a great pitcher, but you also just got rid of your previous best pitcher. And so like I
don't know.
still
I
think that's where you struggle.
I think the only weak spot in our rotation right now, obviously, is Flexen and like Marco Gonzalez. I still think Logan Gilbert and George Kirby, they're still only 25, 26 years old. And they have such live arms. Like they can touch 100 in the 7th inning. Like that's still like decently, like, I don't know. I think 1 through 3 with George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, and Luis Castillo, I think are still better than most teams 1 through 3s. Where it gets dicey is whenever those 3 are on the mound, our offense for some reason goes down. Like whenever Marco Gonzalez is on the mound, we score 8, 9 runs.
Yeah. Well, you
But
only need, and you probably don't know this as much again, and don't take this the wrong. Well, understand that this is a shot at your team, lol, in the joking way. When you go to the playoffs, you only really need 4 good starting pitchers. Like, there's no
Right.
need for a fifth because like the games in between and travel days and things like that. So, granted, obviously you need a fifth for regular season. There's a ton of games, and you want someone that's going to give you innings and not give up a ton of runs, but that piece ultimately is probably just going to move to the bullpen during postseason.
Well, that's the hard part too. Is you look at last postseason as well when we had that matchup with the Astros. We had to lead in Game 1 in Houston with a game we needed to win in Houston, and we bring Robbie Ray in to face lefties when the splits between Alvarez and Ray. Well, he just lefties in
wasn't a
general
good
against
situation.
Alvarez.
Yeah.
Well, he was batting over 300 against lefties. Where I don't know why we didn't bring in Munez or Seawald, who for some reason he struggled against right-handed pitching. But so that's where it's like I think also like the managing side of things there. It's like that's kind of like the Scott Service like first year or first time playoff manager where it's like situational hitting there or pitching like
Well,
trust your bullpen.
I'm curious on, and I mean, this is getting into a whole thing, but like what though, like the specific splits were for that specific matchup, not like lefty on lefty, because the manager has to know. Like if you don't know that that batter, you have all those stats like before the game starts or before the series starts when you know who you're playing, you know how he hits against lefties. So my only thing is he had to know that. Who came in? George Kirby, you said?
No, it was Robbie Ray.
Oh, Robbie Ray. So when Robbie Ray just had to have his number. Like there's no other way he would have brought in like a lefty if he knew Alvarez was hitting over 300 or 330 or whatever versus left-handed.
Well, so
pitchers.
Jordan Alvarez is 1 for 3 with an RBI in 5 plate appearances against Robbie Ray in his career. I don't know if that's counting postseason or not. No, it's not counting postseason. So that's just regular season stats. So 1 for 3.
Yeah, that's a super limited sample size.
Yeah, that's one game.
I think that's just like you're trying to trust your best pitcher.
Yeah,
considered your.
But
best
even then, I don't know if I put Robbie Ray in that situation, like because he's gonna have to pitch at game 2 or 3 at one point or the other. Because I know Castillo pitched game 1 for us there. And I think Gilbert went game 2, and I think Ray pitched game 3. But again, like I don't know if I trust. Like if I'm Scott Service in that situation, I'm trusting Munez or Seawald, like the people who've gotten you there in your bullpen. Like in that sort of situation, I'm going to like my actual closing pitchers who have been in those situations before, who like understand like the magnitude of it. Where like Robbie Ray is just trying to go in there and just throw fastballs past Jordan, which he may have a better fastball than, well, not Muniz. Muniz touches like 102, 103. But like
100,
better than
203?
Seawald. No, like 103. Sorry.
You're good.
But so like at least they understand like the role they're in and like the closing like aspect of it, because I think starting is different than closing, right? Like
Yeah, for sure.
it's a different mindset and like magnitude. Like there's a lot more on the line for closing. Like you are like the last resort in a sense, right? Like there's no one after you. Where like if you're a starting pitcher and you get roughed up, there's people coming in to clean up your mess. Where like if you are the closer, like you are the guy that has to like the game's in your
Yeah,
hand,
and
basically.
you're kind of and pitch and starters are more used to like, okay, I can't go 100-mile. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I can't go
They have to hold
100%
back a little bit.
because
yeah.
I have to do it for 6 innings. So it's a different like. And closers, you said I'm giving it 100% because I only have 20 pitches I'm gonna throw. So it's definitely different. Yeah, I don't like when players like I mean J-Rob said players go to the bullpen and usually your fifth starter, but yeah, I don't like those matchups that much because it doesn't.
Yeah.
The only time I
It's-
like
it's-
those in the playoffs, honestly, is when like a pitcher's getting roughed up really bad, and so you bring him in like the second or third inning, and you get like big innings or long innings. Yeah.
So I guess that's where it comes down to me, where it's like if we win that game, right? Let's say we have Muniz comes in and closes out, or Seawald. Okay, so you win game 1. We definitely lose game 2 because then we lost like 6-2, I think, in game 2. But game 3, the one that went to like 18 innings, like that's anyone's game. The Mariners win that game, or even if they lose, you're still down. You still got one more game in Seattle, like. Right, like I think that whole game 1, losing that one, just set the whole tone for the rest of the series. Especially like, I don't know, like I feel like that was just like the punch that did it for the Mariners. Like I had 18 innings, like you almost lost 2 baseball games to the Astros, but like I don't know, like that's a game like if you're the underdog and everyone's picking the Astros to win, then like you have a chance to win the one on the road that you need to win. Like you're only getting 2 in Seattle, you got to win 1 in Houston regardless, and especially taking game 1 and riding with that momentum over them, like because even like I know the Mariners were relatively in game 2 until like the last, I think it's like the 7th inning or 8th inning when like Jordan hit another home run or something like that. So to me, it's like, how much more does that team win? I don't, does that make sense?
No, yeah, I agree with you. I think that game 1 plays a huge part. Like, I mean, if you end up winning game 1, like, I mean, it could be a whole different story. It's getting walked off, especially in the playoffs, especially on the road. Can be very devastating because, like, the atmosphere there, like, everything, it can set a huge tone for the home team. And so, yeah, if you win game 1, potentially a whole different series, but hard to say for sure. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Peter, and then Casey as well, but Peter first. Top to bottom, who's finishing first in the AL West and then going down? Like, what's your order of, not records, but order of the AL West at the end of the year?
Mine, I have the Astros, the Rangers, Mariners, Angels, Athletics. Heart-wise, I've got the Angels, Mariners, Rangers, Athletics. Fuck the trash cans.
Yeah. Casey?
Realistically, I have the Astros, Mariners, Rangers, Angels, A's. My heart tells me Mariners, Rangers, Angels, A's, Astros.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
First off, when in your realistic thing and you have the Mariners second, LOL, and you didn't even hesitate. I don't know about what your brain tells you or realistically.
I'm debating because I think if DeGrom gets hurt for the Rangers, that is obviously gonna, and he has a obviously long history of that. So I debated that. I mean, I wasn't as instant as Casey with putting him second. I could see Mariners finishing second.
Yeah, I think it's possible.
So I don't think that's out of
Yeah, I think it's possible. There's a lot of signs that have not shown me, but in the small sample size that we have of the 24 games that the Mariners have played, they're not looking great so far this year. And that's no shade. It's just like not a great record against teams over 500.
Hey,
they have a losing record at home.
Look at the Braves. Look at those Braves. When they were 8 games out of 8 games under 500 at the All-Star break, and they go on that run and win the World Series.
You're right. Well, I'm just saying
it's a
right
game
now
of runs.
But excuse me, I'm just saying how things look right now. I got to take it how it is. You can't. I mean, it's near impossible to predict that. Like it's the same thing with the Cardinals. Literally, no one would predict 25 games in the Cardinals would be last place in the NL Central. Like literally, no one would predict that.
Let's hear yours. I want to hear yours.
Mine. Go your ranking.
I go Astros. I go Angels.
Wow.
Rangers, Mariners, Oakland.
Oh.
And that's true. Wow. And I'll give some quick reasons. Astros, obviously, I think they pull away. Angels, I think, are second because I think they're buyers at the deadline. Rangers, I feel like they have a lot of pieces, not enough to. I think they kind of fall off a little bit. Mariners, I think they end up being sellers, but in the way we talked about, not by any means selling any big pieces, but kind of like building for next year, like to try to make that run. Because I think the Mariners are right there. How many what?
Question before we wrap up.
Yeah.
How many playoff teams do you think from the AL West?
I think you get 2.
Yeah, 2.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah, and then so for me being Astros and Angels, I think
you're only getting 1 out of the Central, and that's going to be your division winner. And then I think the other
Agreed.
you're getting 2 out of the AL, the
3.
East, and then
3 out of the East. Because 2 wild cards out of the East.
Yeah, 3 out of the East. You get 2 wild cards, and then you get a division winner and a wild card out of the West.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking as well.
So, but I don't know. There's a lot. I think the AL West is extremely interesting for a lot of different ways. I mean, you can go a number of reasons. Mariners, and Casey talked about a lot. We all talked about it, like how they weren't very good for a long time, or they're just trying to make the playoffs, and they've got that, and they're trying to build off that. The Angels and their whole situation. The Rangers were big buyers in the offseason. Like, there's just a lot of different things and directions you can go with the AL West. So I think super interesting division for sure. But I didn't let you guys do it last time, so I'll let you do it this time for sure. Anything you guys want to say before we cut her off?
They're singing, go, Cubs, go! Go, Cubs, go!
And let me guess, go M's.
Go M's.
Yeah, how do I know? Peter?
I'd like to, following for the people that listened to the last episode, shout out to Kate Upton, and let's go Yankees, chase for 28.
Beautiful. All I want to say, no bias here because I have the neutral cap on tonight. I just want to say I appreciate you guys tuning in, listening to the Broken Bat podcast. This is episode number 14, I believe. Are we on 14? Are we rolling like that right now? We are, episode 14. So you guys are amazing. If you're listening to us and you're like what you're hearing, you like us going back and forth, if for some reason you really like that shitty chant of the Go Cubs Go, hit that follow button and you'll get those notifications of when our episode's released. But other than that, we appreciate you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your night, and we will see you next time on the Broken Bat podcast.